My name is Sam Sutherland. I'm the technical director at Sam Consulting, who kindly sponsored the food and beverages tonight. Who are Sam Consulting? Well, we're an organisation that empowers other organisations by solving real problems through the innovative application of technology. What do we do? We work with cross-platform mobile applications, so React Native, Xamarin, Maui, Flutter. We do a bit of React on the web. We work in Azure, so cloud computing, AI in Azure. We use Copilot as well, and we also have design, practice, and delivery practice. And we are constantly recruiting. So if anybody is looking for a role at the moment and we've got those skills in those spaces, then please do come and talk to me. Or you can find me. You can find my LinkedIn if you go to samsutherland.com. I'll take you to my LinkedIn. That's me, Andre. Our speaker tonight is from GitHub, and he's going to talk to us about Codespaces and Copilot. Over to you.
Thanks. I'm not looking for the job. That's my attitude today. So we have a small group, so feel free to ask questions whenever. Today, what I want to talk to you about is, by the way, who use Codespaces or Copilot? Anybody? Oh. Yeah, there is a feedback. Yeah. No? I think this will be easier, right? You can hear me, right? Yeah. Yeah, sweet. Screw the technology. I want to talk about Codespaces and Copilot. First, I start with Codespaces on the first half, and then I will go into Copilot and I will give you some demos and everything. So first, a little bit about myself. I started at GitHub just over 3 years ago, just before COVID. Prior to that, I worked for Atlassian's partner for 15 years, so Jira, Confluence, Bitbuckets, all that stuff. Started career in development, but really only done it for like full-on development for a year. After that, it went into a different direction, IT, support, operations, and everything else IT related. So born in Ukraine, studied in China, worked in Korea, live in Australia. A lot of people think I'm a spy. Okay, so that's me. A lot of people think I'm a spy. But in my personal life on weekends, I really fly gliders. So spy gliders, yeah, same story. So if you want to have one of those flights, hit me up. I'll take you up. That's one of the babies which was sitting in my garage, in my driveway last weekend. That's not mine, but I was flying it on weekend. Okay, so agenda for today. We're already done with the first topic, so we'll go straight into Codespaces, do some demo, Copilot demo. QA is at the end, but look, we have only a small group. Feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. Don't wait until the end. And of course, we'll finish with beer as expected. So Codespaces. Here's the problem that I don't know how many, if you had this problem. I worked in IT, like in IT support, and people call me. I'm like, it works on my machine. I don't know what's wrong with you, right? How do you solve this problem? Like, well, even then, you have something installed that make it work. I don't have it. What is it? Have no idea. We'll spend probably half a day trying to find out what it is. Imagine developers who install how many dependencies, application tools on their laptops to make it bloody thing work, right? But for the next guy, it doesn't. Or I'm a project manager. I brought a new QA engineer. It took me the whole day getting him up to speed with the environment. And a day is not bad. I've heard it's between 1 day to 2 weeks, somewhere in that range, to set up a new environment for a new hire. A good example, somebody has some tasks that they need to run twice a month, which requires 32 core machine. They don't need it every day. They just need it twice a month. But they have to buy 32 core machine just to run that task twice a month. Everything else can be handled with 4 core. Or just like last one, I have no idea what it works. I don't know why it works. I installed all these tools. So that's the problem that we are trying to solve. We are trying to, with Codespaces, what we're trying to do is to make this environment for developers, or not just developers, or really anybody who use GitHub, to make that environment as standard as possible and easily to spin off as possible. So what is it? It's an instant development environment in a cloud. So the way I explain it is, think about your laptop with VS Code, with Visual Studio Code installed, chuck it somewhere in the cloud and access it via browser. That's what Codespace is. So you have the whole compute, the whole terminal command prompt access in your browser. Whatever you can do on your laptop in VS Code, you can do it in Codespaces. But it's more than just that. Think about it as not just laptop in the cloud, but from organization perspective, it's something that can apply. They can apply policies to. They can apply rules to. They can spin it up in different regions. So, for example, we're in Australia, spin it off up in Singapore. If folks in US, they will spin up in one of the US data centers, just like your Azure regions. So why would you use it? It's very easy to have a configuration applied to Codespaces, which then reused once. And just like I explained, it takes between 1 day to 2 weeks to set up a new developer. It still will take you that 1 to 2 days to set up a Codespace, but only the first one. Once you've set up the first Codespace, the configuration is actually stored in your repository, and the next developer who will start, it will take them a few minutes to start that Codespace with all the tools pre-configured. If at some point a particular tool needed to be added to your environment to work with your project, all you do is modify that Codespace. From there on, every developer who starts Codespace already has that additional tool. And it's as easy to add the tool as just add a few lines into dev containers file. You can work from everywhere. Literally, when I do a lot of my demos, I spin up Codespace because I'm not sure what I have on my laptop, but our demo environments in repositories, I know that they already have set up all the dependencies for that project to work. So I minimize the level of number of surprises I'm going to get during the demo. So let me actually go to a real environment and show you how the Codespace actually looks. By the way, a lot of people get confused. How many people know the full stop trick in GitHub? No. If you hit full stop anywhere on GitHub in any repository, this is what you will get. Come on. Boom. You will get the full-blown editor in your browser. It looks like Codespace. It is not Codespace. It's just editor where I can go and edit any file. The difference between Codespace and what you see right now is there is no compute behind it. This is purely editor to modify files. Think of it as different UI, but it's still github.com. So VS Code scheme on top of github.com. I cannot run an application. I cannot do a debugging because there is no compute behind it. So that's what we call web editor. And let me go back to my, by the way, one trick is full stop. Another trick is change .com to .dev as well. That will move you straight into code, into web editor. With Codespaces, this is how you access them. By the way, every individual has 60 hours per month of Codespace available for you for free. So if you want to go home and try it after this, be my guest. For 60 hours, you can use Codespaces. There is a simple button. You just click on Create Codespace. I will not do that. Let me show you something else. I can, remember I said you can do different things with Codespaces. I can create Codespace in different regions. I can start code space on particular branch. It doesn't mean that I can only work with that branch. Just like with your VS Code, you can always switch to another branch. With VS Code, you can switch to another branch in Codespaces. And this is the interesting things. In this organization, I configured, I have a limit of 16 core machines. But if I allowed to have 32 core, it would let me to start 32 core machine. So what I will do from here, just create a code space. Now, let's see how long it will take. It should take about 2 minutes. Usually the first code space take a while to, oh, wow, that was even faster than I expected. So it's still starting, you see that progress bar going there, but you already see it's VS Code, you will get terminal, you will get all the extensions that you may have configured on left side, you already will have them as well. That's it. I've got my, no, it's still loading a little bit. Come on. Come on, wake up. Yes, thank you. That's it. And from here, I can go and open file and modify them. Again, this is a full development environment. I can do things like npm install. Just your normal development environment, or you can do npm start. And watch what will happen here. Boom. It actually started an application and I can open it in the browser. It might take, the first time you started, still it took not long. Just like on my laptop, I can start an application and I can do whatever 6 times 9, 54. It works, great. I can go and I can actually go and modify that. And for example, I can go and do fancy stuff. I'm being a very naughty guy. Where is my math? By the way, a lot of people think that I'm a cool developer now. The last time I developed code was in 2001. So you may need to help me with something. I want to modify operations of plus with minus. I want to switch them. Yeah, here they are. I'm a naughty one. I can trick people. Let's see. 9 minus 6. Boom. Works. So straight in Codespace, you've done it. Once it's working, just like with your VS Code environment, you go and create pull requests, commit. Once you commit, again, in this particular Codespace, we have GitHub extension configured. So if I commit, naughty, committed, yes. Watch what will happen when I sync changes. There should be. I haven't tested it. Let's hope it works. Yeah, wait, why not? Oh, maybe I haven't done it. Maybe not in this code space, but there are in other environments that I have. There is a GitHub extension, GitHub pull request extension, which will actually detect that, oh, there is a new branch. Do you want to create a pull request straight in your, just like you do it in your VS Code, you can do it here. So it's not here. Okay, what do we do? I want it. Pull request. It's installed. It didn't work. I don't know why. But let's say in this project, I want something else. Let's say I want another. There you can name some extension. Let's install Copilot extension. So I'm installing the Copilot extension, just like on your VS Code. It's installed in my environment, but watch what I can do. Add to dev container. So what I've just done is I actually modified, oh, I don't have any. No wonder. Let's fix it. So what I can do is I can dev container. Let's create a new configuration. Come on. Button, tell me if I'm doing something wrong. And I want to add, I don't know, Terraforms. I want to add Terraform on 16 version. I'll click this button. What will happen is it will recreate this code space. It will take a while. But once I've added these new tools, it will restart Codespace with all these new tools. However, it will just add the tools to my Codespace. If I make it actually modified some files within that repository, which contains that configuration change. As soon as I commit those file changes to my repository on GitHub, from that moment on, every single other developer who will start Codespace will get Terraform's tools in their environment as well. That will take a couple of minutes. Good time to ask questions. Once again?
Snippets. Sorry, can you use them again?
Yep.
Can you use a snippets as well?
Whatever you use on your, what you can use on your VS Code on your laptop, you can do all of that in a code. Yes, it's a terminal. You have access to terminals through your VS Code.
But like, can you add programs into that terminal like this?
Yes, just like command npm or wget whatever download file.
So whatever you want.
Yes, through whatever you can do through a terminal. Yes.
There's like limits.
No, it's any Linux. In VS Code, that terminal is a Linux prompt.
Yeah, okay. But like this box exists somewhere. Like,
Yes. So in a nutshell,
doesn't have every program exists.
in a nutshell, you get a virtual machine somewhere
Okay, so you can
in Azure, somewhere in Azure, and you interact with it via browser, VS Code interface in the browser. Yes.
do one of these install that box.
I've done it via clicks because I'm not that technical to that degree, but you can go into the dev container file and modify it manually and run scripts on start. And yes, you can go nuts. Yeah, 60 hours a month, go nuts. Any other questions? So let me explain the benefits. One of the things that I tell, how many here are developers? Okay, good, not many. Oh. Okay, because I'm always afraid to say this when there are developers in the audience. If you look at it from perspective of your IT department, who's responsible to issue laptops, they can go as far as issue, and developers will not like it, but they can issue everybody Chromebooks, really. As long as there is a Chromebook and a decent internet connection, solid internet connection, you can do everything you could do on your laptop, development-wise, not playing games. You can do it in Codespace. But probably I haven't seen a company who actually went that far. But it's a good example of where you don't have to spend such time on money on 32 core machines and give everybody 4 core, because it can do 80–90% of the work, and just use Codespace for those twice a month's work which you need to run 32 core. So here I have Terraform version. Boom, I have Terraform installed. And what's more, if I go to my repository, and if I go and I start another Codespace, I won't do it because it will take another minute. But if I start another Codespace, or I invite you to this repository, you start this Codespace, you will get Terraform already in your Codespace. The way it's configured is in a dev container file. Oh, I was wrong. You will not get it because I didn't push the changes to GitHub. So if I go back and install a few tools, and I will commit it. Yes, and I sync changes. Oh, the reason I didn't get the prompt is because I didn't create a new branch. I went straight to master. Staging is for losers. But if I refresh that, did it complain about something? Oh, no, that shouldn't be relevant. Shouldn't be relevant. It should. Yes, you see, so that I have it in my GitHub. So now it's the dev container already in my main branch. Everybody who starts now will be able to get it. By the way, last time, remember when I tried to start a Codespace, it only gave me 3 options: region, branch, and specs, right? Aha. You see, there is a new one. So imagine if you have 3 types of personas in your project. You have developer, QA engineer, and security person. Each of them will use different set of tools. So you have developer who is probably have some security knowledge, but not his job, so he cranking code. Security guy is on 1 month's vacation in Hawaii. You need somebody to fill that role for a month. You grab the developer and say, look, I know you have skills. Can you move into here? He said, not a problem. Give me a week to set up the tools, right? What instead you can do is you can set up 3 different type of configurations, one for QA, one for dev, one for security. So all that dev guy had to do is just close his Codespace or laptop, open new Codespace, pick security configuration. All the tools which security folks use for working with your project will be already installed in that Codespace when they start. Will take 2 minutes. So in a nutshell, that's how Codespace look and how they work. Any more questions? I'll give you a little bit background what you can do in enterprise level. You can use Codespace on your personal account, so it's not applicable to you. But if you work for a company or you want to roll this out in a company, there are certain things that you can do to do it in a manageable, managed manner. So firstly, you have access controls. You can decide who can use Codespace, who cannot use Codespace. You can specify what sort of specs people can use, because you are paying for the more CPUs, the more you're paying for it. It's a compute, you're paying per minute. Obviously, 32-core machine will cost you double of 8-core machine. So you probably will want to control what your users can start and cannot start. It's per minute. It's so many cents per minute. Yeah.
Presumably, if you use a 34 machine, for the compile, that's bigger.
If you compile, yeah, it will be faster. By the way, Codespace, you can also set timeout. By default, it's 30 minutes. So if within 30 minutes, what you might have seen me like 5 minutes before the start, I start my Codespace, because if I did it 35 minutes before the start, it would die 30 minutes later. And it would take another 15, 20 seconds to spin off. What will happen is after 30 minutes of inactivity, it's just like on your laptop sleep button.
So I have a Codespace. Let's say I've got 100 people. And we're all at birthday, but most of us are lunch. And let's say we said 84 things. Are we paying for 132 cores? Or are we actually just paying for 30? use it at that point? Because presumably most of us are just idle. Unless we're all building something all at the same time.
So there is idle and there is sleeping. Idle is like, for example, that's Codespace that which I started. It's now, I'm not using it, so it's sitting idle there. After 30 minutes of it sitting idle, GitHub will automatically put it on to sleep.
We can like say, if you've got 100 developers, can I say, give these 100 developers 32 calls? Not 32 calls, I think it's just 32 calls per hour. So if they all compile something all at the same time, it's getting busy. But as long as, like, so they each have 0.3 calls each.
No, that's not, no. That you're not sharing 32 core. You give everybody individual in virtual machine. Yes, you don't give one laptop for your 10 developers and say share it, right?
So you can't. So you reckon that they just can't stop and pay?
It's a laptop in a cloud. It's a laptop in a cloud. It's not mainframe. Yeah, but if that laptop in the cloud sits for 30 minutes without doing anything, GitHub will automatically not kill it. It will put it to sleep. So you will stop paying compute time. You will start paying storage time. But storage is dirt cheap compared to compute time. Yeah. And it will sit there in storage indefinitely until your owner will actually go and say delete it. Only then it will completely destroy that code space. So yeah, you can have machine types. You can have port visibility. By the way, remember when I clicked and opened the application? By default, that port visibility is set to private. Only I can see that. But I could right-click on the port settings and change it to public, send you the URL, and you could open my calculator in your browser. Or I could change it to organization member only. So if you are within the same organization and authenticated, you will see it. But if you are not, you will get 404. And that timeout, by default, it's 30 minutes, but you can configure it as well. Quite often developers have, or companies have, multiple repositories for a single solution. So for example, they may have a separate repository, I don't know, front end, separate repository for back end, maybe separate repository for a couple of services that support that application. You could, but Codespace configuration resides within a single repository. So when we actually build Codespace initially, you can only open it with one repository. So what we are doing is we actually allowing you to add multiple repositories in one Codespace. So you can actually work with those multiple sub-projects at the same time. Monorepo is a good example. You see here, remember I explained we can create multiple configurations. In Monorepo, you have different sub-projects within one repository. You can have those sub-configurations within one repository, and you can pick up, depending on which team you are on, in that Monorepo, you can pick up relevant configuration when you start Codespace. This is probably one of the coolest features. What I've shown you is calculator. Calculator doesn't have many dependencies set up there. It's not a lot of code. Imagine GitHub.GitHub. Imagine GitHub repository, which holds the whole GitHub code. It's probably millions of lines of code, right? Plus whatever dependency. I can't even think of how many different dependencies are there. It takes under a minute to start the Codespace there. One of the reasons is because you can't configure a particular Codespaces to be pre-built. So it sort of cooks it for you, ready, sitting, waiting for you to pick it up. That tremendously decreases the time that needed to start the Codespace, but it starts already a little bit of utilizing your resources. So if it's too big, like GitHub's repository, by the way, all our GitHub developers use Codespaces. We completely switched to Codespaces. So I don't want to waste time, but sometimes when I have more time, I actually go into github.com/GitHub, and I start that Codespace to show people that it takes under a minute. Okay, so Codespaces is not for everybody. If you're not In Linux, probably not for you, because it's just VS Code with Linux terminal in it. If you're not working with Linux, probably not good for it. Also not for native mobile. You don't get Windows UI. It's not a virtual machine which you RDC into. It's a VS Code. It requires internet. We do work on some potential functionality, like, you know, you can use Gmail offline. If you go into deep settings somewhere and set it up and wait for half a day for emails to sync, you can actually use it offline. We are looking at something like that where you could use it offline, but at the moment, I don't believe it's available. Yeah, so there are some restrictions of whom it is for. Here's the exciting stuff. That's what's coming. First one is obviously that's Codespaces a VM somewhere in the cloud, but you may need to pull some dependency from your local server, and there is a firewall in between. So you probably don't want to open your firewall to the whole Azure range. IT will not like you, trust me. We're working on VPN capability where you can establish VPN tunnel with your local network and communicate and grab resources from local network, or maybe even deploy resources to local network. Azure VNet integration, where you can bring your tenant with your network there and integrate with that network. Support for other IDEs, and that one is an interesting one. A lot of customers sometimes need GPUs, which are costly. And again, just like 32 core machines, they may not use them all the time. So we're working on actually bringing GPUs into that Codespaces as well. So there is a QR code with a bunch of links. Don't worry about it. I will have a copy at the end. Any questions so far? We are way over time. If not, let's continue. GitHub Copilot. How many people use Copilot? So why are you here? Okay, disclaimer here. It's always I give this disclaimer. Anything AI, the demos are unpredictable, super unpredictable. With everything else, I know what screen I will get next, unless there is a problem with infrastructure. With AI, when everything works, you will get a different answer. So whatever I will be showing you today, I might see it for the first time as well. So don't kill me. So what is GitHub Copilot? In a nutshell, it's an extension into your IDE or Codespace. In a simple way to describe it is you type, it types, you accept. That's it. You start typing the text, it will provide you a suggestion. You decide whether that suggestion is good or not. And if it is, you accept it, it saves you time. What we found is when we released Copilot, we didn't anticipate how productive developers will get with it. Copilot is amazing at shortening the time that you usually spend on typing dump code. Array, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or January, February, or 1990, 1991, 1992, until 3000. Good luck, right? Copilot does that within seconds. So anytime there is any boilerplate code, that's what Copilot is great at. Quite often I explain it like when your developers face a problem they cannot solve, they go to Stack Overflow. They search Stack Overflow. They can't find anything on Stack Overflow. They post question on Stack Overflow. They wait until tomorrow when somebody comes back, not with answers, with clarification questions. They reply. They come back tomorrow, somebody replied, wrong answer. That's not what I meant. They provide another context, right? Copilot does it within seconds. That's the time which Copilot compresses. You still need developer brain to actually understand what's happening. A lot of people ask, will it replace developer? Not anytime in near future, because you still need developer, somebody human who understands what they need to do and what Copilot tells you to say, yes, that makes sense, I'll accept it. Or I accept it, but that line is stupid, I will replace it. Or this is rubbish, decline, reject. You still need developer to do that. The last one is interesting. Last December, my whole family was overseas. So on Christmas, 2 days, whatever, I had nobody. I had nothing to do. I had zero Python knowledge when I started. I brought up Copilot. I picked up one of the Python questions on some interviews. Within 2 days, I was able, from zero Python knowledge, I was able to create an application which takes CSV input. It takes a mapping file in CSV as well and converts that Excel, converts that Excel according to mapping file and converts it into JSON from zero knowledge, and in a way where you can modify mapping file and it doesn't need any modification of the code. It will readjust everything based on mapping file from zero. So yeah, without Copilot, it would take me probably months. So yeah, some stats. That's a number which surprised us a lot, 96%. We knew that Copilot can generate. We know that AI is faster. We didn't expect that 96% of people said they get much more productivity out of the tool. It's an extension into a developer environment, into IDE. It supports a few of those. Obviously, GitHub Codespaces, the one I showed you earlier. VS Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains, Newbin, we're working on. I didn't remember what we're working on, but there is work happening on next IDE as well. The way it works is quite interesting. As soon as you start, when you type, as soon as you pause typing, Copilot will grab a certain number of characters before and after your cursor. It will also look into those files as well. It will see, hey, what is here? Is whatever I'm typing has any relevance to anything in open tabs? If it thinks that it does, it will grab all the context. It will send it to Copilot. There is a proxy server in between. The proxy server will authenticate. Do you have GitHub Copilot license? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Not a problem. Let's continue. It will remove some secrets. Ignore that. That's incorrect. We just found out. It will ignore some obvious stuff like secrets, email addresses. It will discard them. Also, it will check, are you trying to cheat me and ask some question and trick my AI? And it will, if you ask for a cake recipe, it will say, piss off, not my problem. So abuse of language, of course, it will just decline it. But if everything else is good, it will send it to OpenAI Codex model. That model, who knows a company called OpenAI? So OpenAI is the one who builds and trains the models. We actually don't send data to OpenAI. What we have is we took that already trained model and we deployed it in our Azure tenant. So it actually goes into GitHub's tenant with customized model. So that model grabs your context, what we call prompt, that's information about your code, what you are trying to do. And then it throws into the model, and the model, think of the model as a huge probability machine. What it does is it looks what you have typed, and it says, what is the most probable next line that will appear after that, based on millions of open source repositories out there on the internet. That's how it works. It throws back that line. Again, it goes through the proxy where it checks whether there is any clear security vulnerabilities. If there are any, it will drop that suggestion. It will also check whether it matches any publicly available code one-to-one. And depending on your settings, it will drop it as well. and then it will provide a suggestion back, and it's your job whether to accept it or not. That's under the hood how it works. Let me show you how it works. Let's see. Let me pull out my Visual Studio and open some files. Okay, I have a Python file. Let's say create a function to convert from foreign. I haven't finished. I hit tab, I hit enter. I hit tab, I hit enter. I hit tab. By the way, you see, that's where developer brain come in. Something happened in the past couple of days where we start getting non-completed suggestions. Like it should be 9 there, but it doesn't give me 9. Something is not right in the model in the past couple of days. But that's where developer brain come in, because, okay, that's wrong, right? Hold on a sec. No, that's 9. I actually know what I'm doing. So that's how it should be. Okay, great. Oh, wait, do we want to convert the other way? Let's convert the other way. Same story. Here it does it line by line, but I can do command control and return and get a number of suggestions. In this case, it will not be a good example. There are only 2 suggestions and they're more or less the same because of 2 reasons. One is this is a very straightforward question, straightforward problem. So the probability of the number of different probabilities is very low because there is only one way to calculate from Fahrenheit to Celsius or the other way around. So that's fine. One. Second, I don't have any other tabs open where I may have any other context related to my problem. That's why you will not get many suggestions. If you start writing your own code, which is real with more functions, with more relevant code in other tabs, you will get many more suggestions. So in my case, what I'll do is I'll accept the first one. Sweet. It will start suggesting we do want that. I don't want that. But what I want is I say accept user input if it ends with F. No, I want F or F, yeah, capital, convert to Celsius. If it ends with C, convert to Fahrenheit, yes. Otherwise, print error message, exactly. Let's see. You know what? Let's do control return and see what it gives me. So here's an example where it's a little bit not great. So what I will do is probably see if I can get it to work. Control return, give me, no. Something happening with the model in the past couple of days when it gives me, I expect to see the whole block with the whole 10 lines of code. For some reason, it doesn't give it to me. Remember disclaimer at the beginning? It works with any language.
So, like, when it's your all code is there, you might start to see the code, but that code won't work because that is sort of once you learn. Doesn't like in your, I don't know how platform works.
Possible, but in that particular example, I don't need anything. Everything I need is actually native Python.
Yeah.
So for some reason, it only returns only the first line. I was expecting the whole block.
That's in most cases. That's
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm here, sorry.
You're going to use a whole bunch of libraries generally speaking, whatever problem you solve, that's not true.
It does look at, if you import any libraries at the beginning, it does understand them. Yeah. Yeah, because when I was writing that thing with to convert CSV into JSON, I imported pandas. And straight away, I've got all the panda stuff. Yeah, it gets the context. So yeah. So one by line, for some reason it works, but it didn't want to work if I give it the whole code. So you see, it gave me the whole thing. I will not run it. I know it will work, but here's an interesting example. Remember, there was one benefit. It sparks learning and curiosity. Here's an example. Me being a very raw Python developer, I have no idea what that means. But now when I'm looking at it, I'm like, hold on a second. That must be how you can grab the last character of the input, because that's what I'm trying to do, whether it's F or C, right? Let me go into Python docs and read more about it. That way, it's not me trying to find out how to do it and waste 2 days. It's Copilot telling me, this is how you do it. Go read the docs he did. And then I will spend an hour learning about it rather than wasting 2 days trying to find what it is about. So that's example of how it can actually trigger learning as well. Another thing to point here, when I ask it to convert to Celsius or Fahrenheit, have you noticed that it didn't write a whole new formula from scratch? It actually uses the functions I declared earlier. So it has a context of what I already have in my code. Even if I had those functions declared in separate file, it would pick them up as well. So it doesn't write completely new. It reuses the stuff. It has a context about it. So that's, in a nutshell, how Copilot works. There are 2 types of licenses. There's individual and for Copilot for business. So if you used Copilot, have you used Copilot just by purchasing it, or is it a company provided one to you?
Purchased it.
You purchased it. So you're using Copilot for business. Oh, sorry, Copilot for individual. It's $10 per month. The good thing about it is you individual can go buy it and start using it. Is it useful? Okay, yes, good. More pizza.
I'm gonna go tomorrow.
You haven't used it yet?
No.
Okay, 30 days for free. If you cancel within 30 days, if you don't like it, you won't get charged. You will not be canceling. So it's good that for individuals can go and grab it. There are 2 settings on individual account. One is decide whether you want to allow GitHub to keep your prompts, the code information that you're sending. If you allow it, we will keep it and use it to train the model in the future. Another one is a filter for public code. What we do, the way model learning works is it goes out there and crawls through all public repositories and analyzes the code and learns about grammars, structures within each language. A lot of people think that the model will find bits of code, put them together and give it to you. No, that's not how it works. It learns grammar. You give it a prompt. According to this grammar, it thinks the probability of the next line is this. So the code it provides to you is always new code. In my case of calculating Fahrenheit, sorry, but there is only one way to do it. But if you write some code which is specific to some particular problem, which is not widespread, it will give you always new code. What sometimes happens is if you have particular line of open source appearing in millions of projects, model may get confused and think, oh, that's how grammar works. So that line of code is grammar, full stop. So I have to copy it because that's how grammar works. So sometimes it gets confused and it may put vibrating some line from public code into suggestion. So we do have a filter. It happens in very rare cases, definitely under 1%. We have a filter which says, if we did, for every suggestion, if we will scan whether there is a match with public code. If there is, we will drop it. If you decide to drop it, we will drop it. So there are two settings on your individual account you can apply. Whether you can allow for us to keep your code and whether to drop or allow public code matching. With business, it's slightly different. With Copilot for Business, you has no control over your settings. The admins have. So admins of the organization will apply the settings. You can only use it. So admins will decide who gets the license in their organization. Admins will decide what settings are applicable. They can say allow public code or not allow. In terms of prompts, they can't select it. There is no option. Because with Copilot for Business, we never keep the code. As soon as we generated the suggestion, we provide it, we'll drop the code. There is no even option to opt in to give us your code. So that's the difference between business and individual. One more thing, if you get a license from your employer or organization, if you get a license of Copilot for Business, your individual license will get canceled. And the settings of the business one will be applicable to you from there on. That's all great and rosy so far, but I'm more excited about what's coming. Who has heard about Copilot X? Yeah, Copilot X is, think of it as our vision for the future. Think of it as our kitchen. We're cooking different stuff, AI related. And some of it is pretty close to be actually released. Some of it is still being cooked. Some of it may not ever be cooked. Maybe it doesn't taste good. So we may drop it. So there are quite a few things that we are working on. So let me speed up. So first one is Copilot Chat. Oh no. Yes, Copilot Chat. How many people know regex expressions? I'm not one of them. Highlight, click, explain. It will tell you what it is. By the way, it not just works for regex expression. You can highlight the code block, like 2 pages code block, and it will explain what it's doing in that code block. It's mind-blowing.
That's very it's very light.
How about highlight, translate it into JavaScript? It will do that. Yes, yes, it will. Cobol, translate into Java, right? Yes, it will. Or documentation, like we want to ban Andre from organization, how to do it. It will go and actually look at what's out there and give you the answer, plus give you some links to actual documentation on how to do that. And you can open the documentation. How many people like to create this, write description in a pull request? I'm like, oh, just freaking look at the changes. It's self-explanatory, right? Well, not for everybody. So with Copilot for pull requests, you can actually ask it to write a description for you. It will go, it will analyze what changes you've made to your code, and it will actually write description in English about what it's actually doing. Next question. How long would it take you to write a command prompt which would list all Java files in a directory, excluding test files, and sort results by date? Raise your hand, it will take you under a minute. Oh, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour with Google. I'm probably in half an hour with Google category. Watch. on all in CLI. So that would take me half an hour. This was done under what, 20 seconds? So yeah, that's all about GitHub Copilot and Codespaces. Oh, one last thing. If you thought it was about Copilot Codespaces, no, it's a sales pitch. If you want to come with me, fly gliders, let me know.
There's somebody on the meetup group who wants to talk to you about flying gliders. I'm joking. So.
Not a problem. So yeah, there are some URLs with a bunch of links. For that one is, I think, for Copilot. This one is for Codespaces. So feel free to scan and try. Copilot, 30 days for free for individuals if you haven't tried it before or didn't have it before. If you had it before, it will not be for free. Codespaces, 60 hours per month for every person for free included with GitHub. So great tool to try and play with. Yes. Copilot works for IDEs. So for example, if you use Visual Studio, for example, it's an extension into IDE.
But Visual Studio for Mac as well as Visual Studio for
Irrelevant. If extension is into IDE, it's independent of operating system. Codespace is different. Codespace, it's behind it, it's just Linux. So you cannot have it on Windows. Any other questions? Yes. Unfortunately, recently, no. About from January, we have very tightened our hiring, and there are only a few positions open globally. I'm not even talking about in Australia, globally. I hope it will restart. We become more active in hiring in short term, but I don't know. We're looking, we hopefully will have position open in our team because a couple of people moved on to better places for them. And now I'm me and another person in Australia, we are taking over on that workload, but we don't know. Yeah. Best place to look is GitHub's website. If we do have something, it's usually on GitHub website. There is something like, I think, Visual Ping or something. There are some services which you can sign up for free, which monitor particular pages and notify you if there is any change. Just throw in GitHub Careers website page, and it will tell you if there are any changes.